So which time zone are you in right now? Now you may say, I'm in, those of you who are watching it from India will say, I'm in Indian Standard Time. Maybe if you're in London, you will say Greenwich Mean Time. And there are approximately 24 time zones in the world. But that's not really the time zone that I'm asking you about. What I'm asking you about is the time zone that is there in your psyche right now. And what do I mean by that? So there are essentially three different kinds of psychological time, and I have given them some creative names for each of these different kinds of psychological time. And essentially, even before I tell you about that, let me share something which is really important, and maybe some of you know this. How you manage your time decides how you manage your mind. In many ways, time and mind are very synonymous and closely related to each other, and time is nothing but a concept of your mind. So keeping that in mind, let me share with you three kinds of different psychological times. So the first psychological time is, I call the procrastinators time. I'm sure a lot of us have experienced the procrastinators time zone, right? Where we know we need to do something, but we are not just doing it. I often say in my class, if you're a Hindu, Buddhist or a Jain, then you're allowed to procrastinate. You know why? Because you get a next lifetime. Okay, but jokes apart, the fact is that when we procrastinate, what happens to our mind? So let's look into that. So when we procrastinate, the first thing that happens to our mind is we get conflicted. Because one part of us says, I should be doing this. Another part of us is doing something else. One part of us says, I must work on my assignment. Another part of me is maybe surfing the internet. Conflict. Second thing that happens in the procrastinator's mind is guilt. Because of conflict, of course you will have guilt, because you just feel that what I'm doing is unconsciously, subconsciously, you know what I'm doing is not really what I should be doing right now, right? And the third thing that happens is a sense of self-doubt. A procrastinator will often have not so much of confidence because he can't trust himself. He may say something, but he doesn't know whether he will commit to or be able to do that. So it creates a lot of self-doubt, and maybe over a period of time a sense of dullness, a sense of lethargy in the system, because there are too many things that are pending to be done. So that is the first time zone, the procrastinator's time, perhaps not the best time zone to be in. The second time zone, I call it the executive's time. Now why I call this the executive's time is because in my corporate life, I used to often be asked to do something, and when I used to ask somebody, by when do you want it, the answer I would often get is, I wanted it yesterday. So everything is to be delivered as of yesterday, and even I got the hang of it. Whenever I wanted something, I would say I wanted it yesterday. So mostly in the corporate world, and this is not just restricted to the corporate world, I'm just using executive time as a symbolism. Everything is in a rush, everything is in a deadline, so much things to be done, and there are so what happens when there are too many things packed and the time that we feel is too little to do things? The first thing that happens is that the mind becomes too scattered, because there are too many things. You can't seem to focus, you can't have attention on any one particular thing. The second thing that happens is there's a lot of anxiety in the system, and particularly if you are maybe reporting to somebody, deadlines to be met, how will I do it, a lot of fear, anxiety, nervousness, how to do. And other thing that happens is, now if things are not happening in the time, or maybe you're in a position of power and you're not getting things what you want on the way you want it on time, then there may be anger, there may be aggressiveness, there may be irritation. So this is what happens when you're in the time zone of the executive time. Too many things to do in too less time. And the third time zone, which I think is the best time zone and the ideal time zone, and I call this the Karma Yogi's time. And why I call it the Karma Yogi's time is because this time zone I discovered when I came to yoga, which essentially means, to put it in a very simple way, doing what needs to be done when it needs to be done. That's it. If I have to wake up at a certain time, then I wake up at a certain time. If I'm supposed to have my food at a certain time, I have my food at a certain time. If I'm supposed to do a certain task at a certain time, I do it. Simple. It's as simple as that. So what happens in a Karma Yogi's mind, the time zone of a Karma Yogi is, firstly, there is self-regulation. I know what I need to do and I do it. There's a sense of self-discipline, self-regulation. Then there's a sense of direction, that I know my mind is directed towards some goal, some activity. It is constructively channelized, my mental, emotional energy. And the third thing is, because it's in a sense of direction, because there is integrity, there is a sense of harmony in that mind. So these are the three different kind of psychological time zone: the procrastinator's time, the executive time, and the Karma Yogi's time. So you need to ask yourself, which time zone are you spending the most amount of time in, and what is it doing to your mind, and what is it doing to your life? I will end with a quote by Jonathan Estrin, who is a television producer. He says, "How you spend your time defines who you are." Namaste. Thank you.